Can we start with Iran and where we've ended up with that? I mean, last week was all about Donald Trump saying his intelligence was better than everyone else's intelligence, and the bombs he dropped devastated Iran's nuclear capability. The IAEA seems to be having a disagreement with him.
Yeah, we're kind of stuck in a bit of a limbo right now when it comes to the intelligence on this matter. We really don't know the answers to some key questions. Where Iran's head is at on this, they've come out and talked about how they felt disrespected by some of the comments that Trump has made about protecting their supreme leader from assassination. We don't know the state of their program, their ambitions, the locations and amount of highly enriched uranium that they have at their disposal, the centrifuges, how much they were damaged by these strikes. So much is still unclear, and it's kind of clouded further by this highly charged and politicized atmosphere and discussion around the intelligence, which isn't even finalized yet. And so that leaves us all kind of in this uncomfortable mystery about where this really dangerous situation is right now.
But I mean, we can be clear, can't we, probably, that when Trump talked initially about devastation and indeed thereafter, he was not relying on solid, provable, well-founded intelligence either. I mean, he's gone after the intelligence leakers, and he talks about how poor the information is, but he can't have possibly known at any stage that it was devastated.
Well, what we know is that when the president was speaking about kind of devastation and obliteration, those were not technical terms. Those were not terms that intelligence officials or the IAEA would use. That's political commentary, right? And the administration hasn't told us a lot about the evidence that it's relying on. They've attacked some leaks of early readouts on what took place, but as best we can tell, the reality is that it's still going to take a lot of time for intelligence officials to have any confidence in any assessment of what has happened here.
And how's it played for him over there, Trevor? Because I want to talk about the big, beautiful bill in a moment. But just before we go to domestic matters, has this gone down well? I know the initial polling was that people don't want intervention by America, but now he's proclaimed victory. How's it played?
Well, there's been a sharp debate within the Trump allies and public commentators about exactly the risks here. A lot of MAGA, Make America Great Again, supporters of Trump are worried that this might lead to further action. But we're still at a point where there haven't been any boots on the ground in terms of U.S. service members, no service member deaths, and no sign that this conflict is ramping up anytime soon. And so that has kind of put some of those political questions at ease for at least the next few days until something else breaks on this issue.
And from a point of view of the public, is there a sense of how the public feels about what's happening?
Yeah, I mean, the public is anxious, right? They're anxious about the possibility that this might lead to something further. But there's also a lot of discussion now about, well, maybe the U.S. has managed to get past this crisis without taking any damage on, and so that that could accrue to the president's benefit politically.
Meanwhile, the president's got to get his big, beautiful bill through Congress. He's making progress on that. Is this going to pass? He wants it to pass by July the 4th. Is it going to, do you think?
There's a lot of risks here in terms of it being able to pass by July 4th. I mean, the fact of the matter is that this is a made-up symbolic deadline. Yeah. There's no need for this bill to pass by July 4th. It's just a deadline that the president has chosen for symbolic reasons. So clearly, the president has enormous power within his party. He has threatened, cajoled, twisted arms in order to get the votes that he needed for this. And the bill has cleared important procedural hurdles in the Senate. It's passed the House. It does seem like this is working towards an eventual passage, but it's not going to be without a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth until that time comes, because you've got estimates that say this is going to add $3 trillion
Yeah.
to the U.S. deficit. And Republicans have positioned themselves as deficit hawks. You've got Medicaid cuts that might be unpopular with in some of these areas where senators are going to have to be reelected, some of them in 2 years. And then you've got the president putting pressure on every single member that if they don't get behind him, he is going to come out against them and make their lives hell.
And presumably, Trevor, there's a fear of the bond markets in all of this. I mean, we're looking at it from this country. You know, we had our own problem with our Liz Truss mini budget, where the idea of tax cuts that are unfunded created panic in the bond markets. $3.3 trillion to the debt is a huge amount of money. And at some point, the bond market's going to say America's no longer good for the debt. I mean, it's not said that ever really before, but at some point, that could be a massive problem for the president.
Well, we've now seen all of the three major credit rating agencies withdraw their support for the United States having the highest tier credit rating. That's already gone because of political reasons, because of political risk. It could be possible that the bond market follows those credit rating agencies and starts to make a fuss about this. So that is absolutely a risk. The Republicans have tried to position this as not a big deficit enhancer. I don't know many nonpartisan officials who would agree with that at this point. But it absolutely is a market risk for Republicans as this bill moves forward.
And does the president worry about that? Does he talk about that? I mean, because he's a president who will just assert success, whatever the markets say, whatever the bond markets say, whatever the inflationary impacts of his tariffs are, anything. I mean, as we just began this conversation, by he was able to term a nuclear strike, a strike on nuclear capabilities, devastating without any intelligence. He operates in a world where he asserts something, and he wants reality to follow him rather than trying to describe reality. Is that what his approach will be here? This is going to be fine. Trust me.
I think his economic approach is slightly different. I think what he is hoping for is that he basically all of the estimates of where U.S. economic growth is going to be are way too low for where Republicans feel comfortable at this point. And they feel like a combination of tax cuts, interest rate cuts, which Trump also talks a lot about, that all of these things are going to be growth enhancers. They're going to draw jobs and companies back to the United States. And to put it, kind of in regular language, they want to run this economy kind of hot. And so that's what all of these policies are meant to do. And the hope is that, okay, maybe there might be a risk in terms of some deficits here, but maybe we can also jumpstart a higher growth rate for the U.S. and bring some more income into the coffers that way. And then you've also got tariffs as well, which they hope will be a big revenue enhancer.
Yeah, we've heard these arguments before. We'll see what happens when they hit reality. Trevor, really interesting, Zara. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.